I am your host, Davis, joined again by my co-host, Drew.
Yo, yo, yo.
We are back after week 1. I'm amped. Are you amped?
I'm so pumped. I wish that my bank account was doing a little bit better, but hey, it is what it is. Live to fight another day.
I am right there with you, but your bank account's doing poor because of your betting. However, we'll talk about Drew's bad beats. We'll talk about the new AP poll. We have some bad takes. Returning for the first time in a while, bad take Blakes of the week. We have 3 of them. Count them. 3 of them. We'll be doing a week 1 recap as well as a week 2 look ahead. And then the BTB week 2 top 25 poll dropped today. And if you want to see that, you should follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram at BadTakeBlake, Twitter at BadTakeBlake_. Please like us, subscribe to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you are listening. Give us a rating. Leave us a nice review. If you leave us a nice review, you might get a koozie. Shout out to Will Hall. He left us a nice review on Apple. He's getting a koozie when we ever make them.
We should do that soon, by the way.
I'm working on it. I got a guy. But yeah, we're back. So
I don't even want to jump on this Liam dude because, I mean, he was honestly kind of nice about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in a minute. Let's talk about your bet slip, Drew.
Oh, let me get it up.
Did you finish 1 for 9 after the Florida State game?
The only reason I put 1 for in there was because I had Alabama first half, and there was like 8 minutes left in the second quarter, and they were down, or they needed 2 scores, so I cashed out and made $5. Well, they ended up covering after I cashed out, so really I was 0 for 9.
0 for 9. That's a talent. We're gonna have to start fading Drew on the spreadsheet.
Not a bad idea. At this rate, I could be making everyone money by just saying do the opposite of what I say. I mean, it was so dark. I went Baylor live.
Oh my, Baylor.
1, 2. God, I had so much money on LSU too. What was that?
What is your average unit score?
Like $20, usually like 20 to 30.
But you did end up betting more this week for certain games.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first week, and then I've gotten myself out of trouble enough times by going big on a bet that I really have faith in, and I had a lot of faith in LSU, and did not work out. I
think it's important to remember that every dollar you lose on bad bets is a dollar that could go to the podcast.
That is true. We are very close to being monetized, though. So maybe the $5 we make from the monetization will help pay off some of these.
If you think we make $5 off of monetization, God bless you, Drew. God bless you.
Look, this is what got me in the same place. High hopes. It's what gets me in every situation.
I will never ask our subscribers for money, but if you would like to send us money, my Venmo is open.
My Venmo is also open.
My tips are open on my Twitter account, and I'm just going to leave it at that. So we have a new AP poll that dropped today. Anything stand out to you? Because I'll tell you, I'm not surprised that Clemson fell as bad as they did. I'm a little surprised. I look at it 2 ways. I'm a little surprised they're still in it, and I'm also a little surprised that they fell 15, 16 slots because they're coming in at 25.
So, I mean, just to touch back on what we were just talking about, if you've been listening to the podcast, I've been very hard on Clemson for a long time. I literally just didn't have the money to bet Duke. I really wanted to bet a money line. I just didn't have it in me. I didn't have I was just like, I can't bet anymore this weekend. Clemson is not good. I think they're in the top 25 because of what they can be and the recruits they have. But they're just really not that good. And I've been saying that for a long, long time, ever since the end of last season.
We'll talk about Clemson more whenever we recap week 1. But, yeah, not good. I'm a little surprised Colorado was able to crack the top 25.
I am too. I think hype played into that.
At 100%. But I'm also, it's also like there's a lot of people that don't like Deion. So –
Really?
No.
Maybe my feed is all positive, but
which I'll go on record. I am pro Deion. I watched his interview with Joel Klatt. I really liked what he had to say.
How can you not be? I don't understand. Like, it's amazing to see something like this happen.
Yeah. So anyways, that brings us, with a new AP poll comes new AP poll ballots. And that brings us to our bad take Blake of the week. Now, I've got 3 here. One of them is from last week because he released these right after we were done recording. First one comes from everyone's favorite Brett McMurphy. Brett McMurphy has Louisville at the 25 spot after an absolute slog against Georgia Tech and having to come back from behind to win. And then not only did they come back from behind, they ended up taking the lead for the cover and then blew the cover in the final 2 minutes. So that's having Louisville in the top 25 is a bad take. Having Louisville with the points was a bad beat. He also has UCLA at 17. They struggled mightily with Coastal Carolina at home, I might add. So I don't agree with that. Florida State number 1 overall. Do we really believe Florida State jumps to number 1 after beating LSU? We'll discuss that later. But I'm a big fan of you should be ranked what you earn. I guess Florida State has the best resume at this point, but it's definitely by default.
Yeah, okay.
Number 2, another AP top 25 voter. And I will say, I interacted with this guy a little bit on Twitter. He's a good sport about it. We appreciate it. I consider him a friend of the podcast now. Liam Blutman had Duke all the way up at number 12. Duke put a mollywhopping on Clemson, but I'm not sure they're number 12 quite yet. I'm also a little upset with where he had Tennessee at 14. However, you are what you earn. Ohio State all the way down at number 10 is also a little bit eye-opening.
Not as eye-opening as people think. I have some opinions on that, but
I got some opinions on that as well. And you're right, we will get there. And finally, the last bad take Blake of the week comes from Twitter's own sunshine pumping son, Josh Pate. Josh Pate released his conference picks last week right as we wrapped up recording. And he released the conference title games as well. After week 1, highly questionable. The one that jumps out to me was not even one that jumped out to me at first, but Florida State over Clemson. I don't know if Clemson gets to the conference title game. They already have a conference loss week 1, and it's a bad one.
Yeah.
They still have to play Miami, Florida State, Notre Dame, they ended up pulling it out. And I know sometimes teams struggle week 1, but that's not what you want to see from your conference champion or from your conference runner-up, especially whenever Oklahoma, who has a top 5 talented roster in the country, just dropped 73 points on an FBS opponent. Iowa in the Big Ten championship game losing to Ohio State. This is tough all the way around. Penn State and Michigan are going to be competing for that spot that Ohio State is in. Ohio State looked to be the worst of those 3 teams. They struggled against Indiana. What was the final? 23-3? 23-7?
Well, go on. I thought they had more than that, but
for a team with the best wide receiver room in the country, they looked like hot dog water.
Didn't he have like 13 yards after the second quarter or something? Like, it was disgusting.
Yeah. On the flip side of that is Iowa. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead against a nobody and then ended up winning 24-0, which, if you're keeping track, does not beat the 25 points per game that Iowa must score for the Ferences to keep their jobs.
I want to keep a tally every year of how quick he is. Like, now he's got to score even more points next game. So I want to keep averages up on Iowa.
Oh, keep it on the spreadsheet, man. Keep it on the spreadsheet. And finally, the Pac-12 title game. He's got Oregon over UCLA. I don't think Oregon's a terrible pick. I'm a little suspect with UCLA given how they handle Coastal Carolina, but I'm not going to overreact to week 1. Drew, of those 3, which do you think is the most egregious? Because I got to say, Louisville at top 25 is pretty egregious.
Yeah, it's hard to make a case against that. I really don't like the Clemson, and I to be honest with you, I don't like the OSU. I think K-State's there. I truly believe in Kansas State. I don't like that at all, but I do think Clemson is probably the most egregious.
Clemson is one. So he put this out before the season technically started. I don't think I would have raised my eyebrow at that, but I don't think I would have raised my eyebrow at a couple of these. But the way that it's played out after week one, Clemson's struggling.
I would have said that a week ago, and you've heard me a million times. I've always been very critical on Clemson since we started this thing.
I have not been, and we'll talk about Clemson. Good segue into our week one recap. You want to go ahead and talk about Clemson?
They're about how I thought they were. Their offense is, and let's make something very clear. Duke's defense is not some untamed beast that we didn't know about. Clemson is not very good on offense. They're just not. Their defense is pretty good. But they're very similar to how they were last year. They can't get it done on the offensive side.
Well, they brought in Garrett Riley, who was supposed to fix that. And he did not. Not at all.
So far.
They just look so bad on offense. They made mistakes. We don't see a lot from the Clemson of the past couple years. A lot of fumbles at the goal line. And, Duke wasn't perfect. Duke had that fumble on the punt return at the beginning where it's like, oh, here we go. This is where Clemson starts to come back. And they just never did.
We saw fumbles with Clemson last year. We saw mistakes like this last year, and it doesn't surprise me. Against Syracuse, they had a big fumble. So this kind of stuff doesn't surprise me at all. I completely expected this out of Clemson this year.
I thought they were going to start to get back to being Clemson. Obviously, I was mistaken by that.
Let me ask you this. If we see a continuous decline from Clemson over this year, when does Dabo get on the hot seat?
It's hard because once you have that taste of success, it's hard to go back to being a middle of the pack, even if you are an upper middle of the pack, which Clemson does not look like they will be.
Their schedule plays to they play some hard teams, but their conference games plays to, Dabo. But I don't think winning 8 games in Clemson is going to keep a coach there.
Whenever you have created a mini dynasty, which is what Dabo did, you raise the expectations. People don't want the dynasty to die. Clemson fans and South Carolina fans are both incredibly annoying on the Bird app.
Facts.
He's not going to be on the hot seat this year.
No, I don't think so. But when do the rumblings start happening? I think at the end of the season, this season, if it goes like it went 2 days ago or whenever it was, I think you get some talks of can Dabo do this in the NIL era?
I think there are already some talks of that. But how bad does he have to do this season to end up on the hot seat? I'm not sure 9-3 will get him there. But there will be serious questions that need to be addressed in terms of quarterback, in terms of offensive coordinator.
So, gentlemen.
How you doing, Cole?
Hey, doing good.
Hey, turn on your...
I spent $180 on this program, so you better fucking figure it out.
Davis just told me y'all weren't going to buy it.
I'm just fucking with you, dude.
I don't see anything. Maybe it's on the computer.
Hang on, I can do it from my end.
Can y'all hear me?
Think. Yeah, I
It
can.
sound terrible.
Okay, no, never mind.
Don't sound great either. Got echo cancellation on for you.
I just heard some a juicy rumor about Arkansas.
That's some juicy news.
That is some juicy news.
And hey, they play Ole Miss in 4 weeks.
We'll get to Ole Miss, but I want to say, Cole, I was impressed by them this weekend.
TCU Colorado. What became the most interesting game Saturday, and I was impressed by them. I am going to talk about them, but I want to get back to where we left off. Quintessentially launched the Deion Sanders era. I am fumbling over my words today. TCU, the national title runner-up last year. I think we all knew TCU was not going to do that again next year. They were going to be ranked. I feel like we generally felt like they were going to be a top 25 program most of the year. Certainly after week one, Colorado won 1 game last year, and it took them one. Hunter looked like a Heisman contender, playing 120-plus snaps on both sides of the ball. week to match that win total in a top 25 victory on the road. Shedeur Sanders had over 500 yards passing. Travis, 100 yards receiving, 1 interception, lockdown corner. How do y'all feel about that? I mean, do we think Colorado's a legitimate top 25 team? Do we think this was a good game one? I'll tell you, I am impressed with the job Deion Sanders has done to this point.
Cole, I'm going to go real quick and I'll let you go. Even though I lost every bet I put in on Saturday, that was the one bet that I was like, you know what? I'm happy to lose this thing. Incredible. And like, even if they only win another 4 games this year, so impressed. I mean, for like the turnaround alone, and everyone's like, oh, you were a hater. I wasn't a hater. I looked at them winning 1 game last year and I was like, look, it's really hard to turn that around. I'm not upset with that thought process. I was super impressed. I do think they're
the craziest thing about this Travis Hunter thing is he played 129 snaps at 2 of the most exhausting positions. You know how exhausting it is to play cornerback, just cornerback for the whole game, but then turn around and be running routes right after?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have some elite level conditioning to do something like that. Colorado, I think they're going to be mediocre. I could see them going like 7-5, right? I just don't think 73 players, new players. I mean, it's hard to build that culture, especially like when you face adversity. Just due to the fact, like Ole Miss saw it last year. They had like 4 new players last year, and as soon as they lost that first game, shit hit the fan. So when Colorado inevitably loses, not only will Deion be shit on by everybody because he acted like an ass in the press conference, but here's the thing. Here's the thing.
That's a 700% increase from last season.
Yeah, but
I just disagree with that.
Here's the thing. It's like I want to root for Deion so bad. And like watching the game, I'm excited for Colorado. And then he comes up there saying like, I got the receipts. Like you know who's going to have the receipts when he loses that first game?
Everyone.
Dude, how do you not sympathize with that, Cole? That's insane. Of course, look, it doesn't matter what would have happened. It matters what did happen. And what did happen is he came in there and proved them wrong. So you're damn right I'm going into the interviews after the game saying, F you, I'm here. This is me. How do you not sympathize with that?
Because here's the issue, right? Like college sports is so easy to make enemies. It's so easy. And when you get the media against you, guess who's going to start all those narratives when you start losing?
Deion Sanders has been dealing with the media for years, and he ain't scared of them at all.
But here's the thing, Dowdy. It's like, I want Deion to succeed. I think he's good for football. I think he's fun as hell to watch. But as soon as he goes on his skid, every national media who he called out is going to continue the
We will see it. A bunch of coach speak. We saw a lot of coach speak this week from various people. We saw it from Dabo. We saw it from Beamer. Deion just happens. I didn't think a bowl was going to be in the picture. I think it's definitely in the picture. I don't think they're a top 10 team. To be on the positive side of that coach speak at this moment, I'm not worried about it. I think a bowl team yet, but no. I'm telling you, watch out for next year.
Definitely.
I'm sorry, one more thing. One thing Deion is so good at is he knows he's not the smartest person. He knows he's not the best coach. So what he did is he went out and he grabbed this all-star coaching staff, and he's just a figure. He lets them go to war. You got to respect something.
The Ed Ogeron method.
What'd you say?
The Ed Ogeron method.
Yeah. Yep, it's Ed Ogeron. Yep. He snagged Sean Lewis from Kent State, right? And Sean Lewis is a still offensive coach. Charles Kelly from Alabama. I mean, he put out an all-star lineup. So
I think it's important to note, though, that if you'll look back at the whole history of Colorado over the last year, Deion was very active in the media as soon as he came to Colorado. He got the hype up. And then the last 6 weeks, have you heard anything from him other than this weekend? Have you heard anything from him in the media? He hasn't
he had the culture. He had the culture thing. That happened like a week ago.
He's not in the mainstream like he was before that. Deion Sanders knows how to control the media better than 90% of coaches, 95% of coaches out there. I don't. That is one thing I do not worry about is how Deion Sanders is going to handle the media, because he'll shut him out when he needs to, and then he'll involve them also when he needs to.
Here's the thing.
He literally just had an interview with Joel Klatt talking about what he meant by all of his stuff, which it's a great interview. You should go watch it.
And it came out, 4 days before the game?
I don't know if I saw a live or a re-air, so couldn't tell you.
Before that, there was a long period of time where you heard damn near nothing out of Deion. And that's because he was talking to his team saying, hey, listen, don't listen to all this. Don't buy into all their bullshit. Focus, and we're going to win this game. And that's exactly what he did.
All right, we got to move on from this. Cole, get your last word in, and then we're going on.
I was going to say, you can see what he's doing, because as soon as Colorado loses and the whole national media hops on him, he's going to go to his team. See, all these people hating on you. All these people are hating on you. He's going to turn around the thing.
Good job.
Bro, Kirby Smart out here saying everyone doubted us after their second national title. Nobody doubted you. Nobody.
I love that clip.
All right, South Carolina, North Carolina. Is this a case of North Carolina looking good or South Carolina looking bad? Because we talked about what was going to be the difference for South Carolina this year, and we said it was going to be Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler had a pretty good game if you remove the 9 sacks, which you can realistically say was his offensive line's fault. But they still stink, and it looks like their middle linebacker might be out for the year. They're thin. They're extremely thin. They didn't look good at all the second half. They recovered the onside kick to start the second half and couldn't capitalize on it and didn't score for the rest of the game.
That damn hot
makes my stomach hurt, dude.
Yeah, and then he goes on his tirade. It's like, clock was wrong the whole game. We're trying to kick the onside kick, which they recovered. And but the chain crew is eating a hot dog. Just Beamer. I tell you this, man. Beamer is Butch Jones, a bunch of pizzazzy and stupid expressions. He's corny as hell. And Billy Napier is Jeremy Pruitt. He's in over his head.
I will say this has nothing to do with anything, but the Spencer Rattler with the Murdoch family picture on game day is brutal. Brutal. I saw that and I was like, oh, God.
Oh, and then, Beamer is so much like Butch because stupid content just follows him. The Mac Brown net grab, which I don't think Mac Brown did that intentionally. It's just the way it ended up and the fact that it happened to be Shane Beamer, who is just a giant goofball. So funny.
Well, Mac Brown is like best friends with Frank Beamer. So they have their vacation houses right next to each other. So I don't think there was anything malicious with it, but it's still funny nonetheless. And I just want to go on record. I have been on the fuck Shane Beamer train for a while. He is the cringiest coach, the most corny coach you can ever. I mean, just watching him makes my insides crawl. I'm not going to even lie. I couldn't imagine. It's like watching Hugh Freeze all over again. It's just disturbing to look at.
I don't think he's nearly as bad a person as Hugh Freeze, but it's going to be a long year for South Carolina. I'm looking at the schedule for South Carolina.
It's tough.
Mississippi State is now a must-win game, and then because they have a week after, Mississippi State becomes a must-win game, and then after that they come to Neyland, and then after that they have Furman this week, and then Georgia. Let's go ahead and chalk Georgia up as a loss for the point of this exercise. Mississippi State the week play Florida, so Florida and South Carolina could both come into that game being 1-5, 2-4.
Florida's going to have at least one win, that's for sure.
Dude, Florida is trash.
Let's go ahead and talk about them, man. They looked awful against Utah.
Horrible.
Utah didn't look good for large stretches of that game.
Well,
at one point they were missing 8 starters, including their, All-American quarterback. But
I'll tell you something. Florida's offense is anemic. That front seven is actually good. That front seven had pressure on the quarterback the whole entire game.
I mean, I don't think that Utah was great. I don't think their offensive line was at full strength. I know they were missing that tight end, who's supposed to be one of the better tight ends in the conference. They looked good against a Pac-12 team, but they also got bullied against the Pac-12 team on the other side of the ball.
Oh yeah, no, offense isn't neat. Like it was so hard to watch.
I told Davis this. They looked bad on a coaching standpoint, on an execution standpoint, and on a talent standpoint.
Well,
and
coaching,
that's hard to overcome.
This is where, like, I make the comparison of Billy Napier to Jeremy Pruitt. He looks in over his head. How do you have 2 number 3s on the field? That's something that junior high coaches don't mess up on.
Yeah.
It's because, like, okay, I hear too much from, like, coaches who, like, know what they're talking about. Let's say Billy Napier's a good coach. I fully believe that just the moment's too big for him. I just don't think that he can, like, withstand the pressure of coaching at a big school like Florida.
I think you're right, and I think it was a really bad move for them to get rid of Dan Mullen. And what, like, it literally is playing out like Tennessee played out with Pruitt, just in acceleration. He's going to get fired after this year, and that number 3 recruiting class they have is going to fall apart. My hope is that they hire Butch Jones or Derek Dooley.
$36 million, he is not getting fired. He's not getting fired.
I don't think it matters, though, because I don't think he can do anything with that talent, even if it gets there.
Well, I know I talked to Davis about it, but there's at least one guy I know who Florida is way overpaying for.
Scott Strickland.
Scott Strickland. Yeah, well, recruit-wise.
Oh.
And so I'd be surprised to see if that money actually makes it to that recruit.
Their NIL is a shit show.
Yeah.
It is.
They do not have a good reputation.
And Gabby obviously went to Mississippi State, and she was like, "Oh, Florida? Oh, I hate Florida. They took Dan Mullen from us." And this was at halftime, and I was like, "No, that's Dan Mullen right there." And she goes, "Oh, he's not the coach anymore?" I said, "He ain't in the locker room. He's up there commentating."
Hey, wait, hold on. I'm sorry, I have to say this. Did y'all see the Elijah Drinkwitz comment?
Bro, Eli is Derek Dooley, man. I'm telling you, the SEC East is just a bunch of old Tennessee coaches. We got Dollar General, Jeremy Pruitt, Discount Store, Butch Jones, and hand-me-down Derek Dooley.
Oh, Lord.
Did you see that comment, Drew?
I did not. What'd he say?
Dude, it was one of the worst. I mean, Eli's right there with Shane Beamer. I can't stand both of them. He said something along the lines of, he was, defending his quarterback, Brady Cook, or whatever, and he went on a long monologue about it. Then towards the end, he says, when my daughter is 18, I would like her to date someone like Brady Cook, or something along those lines, just out of nowhere.
What?
It was the wildest comment just out of
Oh,
left
my
field.
gosh.
Yeah.
What a nightmare.
I think we need to bring this to the President of the United States. We have an epidemic of Butch Jones spawns
Running around.
All right. Our last big game that we're going to recap. We do have a couple smaller notes that I want to talk about, but game of the week, LSU versus Florida State. Great first half. Ended up being kind of a walk for Florida State at the end. Brian Kelly did not manage that game very well. I will say this. There are people that are very high on Jordan Travis after that game. Jordan Travis very well could have had 2 more interceptions. Like, I know the numbers look good, but if you actually watch that game, there were some highly questionable throws. Great win. And of all the marquee games that we've talked about, the Clemson, Duke, the South Carolina, North Carolina, the TCU, Colorado, and the Florida, Utah, of all the teams that took losses, I feel like LSU is in the best position to bounce back and make a run at things. But the way Brian Kelly coached that game, you want to talk about the moment being too big for you? Going for it on 4th down in your red zone early whenever you could just take the points. I mean, great if you get it.
He barely gained a yard after he had been. I mean, he had already done, 8 plays, and he had barely gained a yard?
I think both teams had negative rushing yards towards the end of the first half, and then it just started to click for Florida State.
Well, and not only that, the refs were trying their best to give LSU the game.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
The first half call.
Good for Florida State.
I talked to a friend of mine who's a Notre Dame fan, and he said, shout out Chris Salm, he said Brian Kelly had these this was my biggest concern with Brian Kelly when he was at Notre Dame. He couldn't step up to the plate for these big games. And honestly, other than Alabama last year, which I don't want to say anything bad, but you got to take that with a grain of salt because Alabama was not doing very well last year. Has he really been on a big stage, a big stage like he was on Monday or on Sunday night?
I mean, he's been in the national championship before.
I understand that, but
I think
he made a lot of
the biggest stage I think he won on was whenever Notre Dame was a part of the ACC the COVID year, and they beat like a top 10 Clemson.
They beat Clemson, yeah.
But they ended up losing to them in the conference championship. So,
well, let me tell you, Hugh Freeze has more New York Six bowl wins than Brian Kelly.
God, that's hard.
Brian Kelly is 0 for, I think, 8, 0 for 9 in New Year's Six bowl games.
Yeah, Notre Dame hasn't won a New Year's Six bowl game since like the 90s. Since before there was a New Year's Six.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I'm going to tell you, if I'm an LSU fan, the one thing that concerns me the most is how LSU just gave up.
Yeah, they laid down.
No fight. That second half, they got punched in the mouth and they just gave up.
Yeah, I agree.
So I would like to take my flowers here. Everyone in the group chat was saying LSU was going to win. Old Dave over here had Florida State money line, and Cole said after the fact he had Florida State plus 2.5.
Hey, I'll show you pictures. I took actually.
Well, that's a cheap shot move too. You know it is. You know it is. I was upset about that. I read that and I was like, son of a bitch. You faded them, and that's probably why I lost. Oh, I don't even want to get into this.
Listen, boys. I went like 0 for 5 Saturday, and I came back with the 2 bangers. I had a teaser with Duke in the under, Duke spread, and Florida State money line, like 3 different bets.
Well, lucky you, because I didn't have any money left to bet on Duke, and I would have loved to hit them on Monday. But guess what? I had no dollars left. I was completely out of coin.
I would like to say I was 12-8 for my picks in week 1. That's above 500.
That's a lot of picks. Golly.
I didn't bet every game, but we do our picks whenever we talk through
I'm gonna
the games on this show.
I was busy as hell last week, and I didn't have time to send it. But I'm gonna send you all my picks.
Send them to Drew. Drew's got the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Sorry, Drew, giving you homework.
No, you're good. I don't mind the spreadsheet. I'm interested in it.
Other notable games of the week. One last thing on LSU. Everyone was so high on them. 2 things can be true at the same time. LSU was overrated. LSU is still a good football team. I said they were not going to be in the playoffs this year. It's an uphill battle from here for them.
Okay, wait, one more thing. We're missing a huge point here. What is Matt House doing with that defense? Harold Perkins was spying the quarterback for half the game.
Oh, dude, they need to make him an edge rush specialist. Whatever they were doing was not working.
They need to put him on the edge and tell him to run after the ball. That's it.
Some credit to Jordan Travis, though, because he is very good in the pocket. He knows when to get out. Let's give him some credit on that. I don't think that's as much LSU defense as it is, him being good.
Harold make one play.
I don't think he did.
I didn't see one play. I mean, and for someone who's supposed to be like all-American linebacker, that's just unacceptable.
And I agree. They ended up getting, like you said, giving up, laying down in the second half. They got beat so bad, I'm not sure Mason makes a difference.
No, I agree.
So
0-4 on third down conversions in the first quarter of the game is brutal. You can't not one.
We didn't talk about this. Florida was like 0 for 9 on 3rd and 4th down conversions through 3 quarters.
That's a Graham Mertz special right there.
Yeah.
They want to pull that stat line. He had 333 yards passing. That's more than Jalen Milroe. That's more than Hendon Hooker. That's more than X, Y, and Z. I'm like, he was completing 5-yard slants.
That's a prime example of stats don't tell the whole story.
Yeah.
He was awful that game. Hey, Dave, by the way, do you know who has the number 1 QBR in the nation right now?
Oh, God.
Jackson Dart.
Yeah, I think Houston High School would have given Ben and Cookman a run for their money.
I think they're number 1 Germantown High School is number 1 in the Dandy Dozen. Houston was number 2 when they played this last week.
Who won?
Germantown, because they blocked the extra point. I think it was 28-26. Other notes from week 1. Texas Tech lost to Wyoming in overtime on the road. Texas Tech was a dark horse for some people in the Big 12. Why would you play that game on the road?
It's stupid. I'm guilty. I was buying into the Texas Tech stuff.
I was buying into them too.
I'm not going to lie.
I literally bought into them, like actual money paid.
Other teams that Drew bought into, Baylor losing straight up to Texas State.
I was down so bad.
So you pick, hey, Davis, my plan next week is just to fade Drew.
That's
my plan.
We're having to do a whole segment on I'm putting out my picks, and everyone's going to do the opposite, and everyone's going to get rich, I'm just going to be sitting here.
I'm not just going to fade Drew. I'm going to moneyline fade Drew. He gives me a -28. I'm moneyline the other team.
Lord.
Nebraska, Minnesota was an incredibly ugly game. Nebraska didn't found a way to lose. Through an interception.
Awesome.
Huh?
Tough for Matt Rule.
The last 3 minutes was awesome. Of the game?
Yeah, but it was an ugly first 57 minutes.
This is tough for Matt Rule for sure.
See, I was at the airport at the time flying out, and I only caught the last 3 minutes.
Dude,
so I missed all the ugliness.
I don't want to give a preview for we're about to do our picks for next week, but if I'm a Nebraska fan about to play my rival Colorado, I'm fucking sweating right now.
I'm betting on Nebraska.
And then I want to talk about the trio of offensive barrages. Ole Miss scored 73 against Helen Keller School for the Blind. Oregon scored 84 against Helen Keller School for the Deaf. There is a D3 deaf football program, by the way. That's a fun fact. Go Google it in your free time. And then Oklahoma scored 73 against the Fighting Butch Joneses.
On the side.
No, it is all hand signs. I mean,
well, I'm just saying, I don't think they have any microphones in the air.
There's one. I saw an ESPN special on it. There's one kid on the team that can hear, and he's tapping people what to do.
Omaha!
Outside of that, we saw a lot of slow starts.
You can't just go over the Butch Jones crying on the sidelines.
You love to grandstand on him.
I hate Butch Jones.
The Butch Jones crying on the sideline was the funniest thing I've seen in a while.
I was going to talk about it because they play Memphis next week. I was going to talk about it whenever we looked at that game, but I hope Memphis makes him cry again next week. It couldn't happen to a worse human being.
Butch isn't crying on the sidelines. I'll be upset with Memphis.
The tweet I saw that it was if I see the other coach on the sideline, I'm going Hail Mary every play.
He said I'm putting 80 up.
Drew, is that game in Memphis or is it at Arkansas State?
That's a good question.
I think it's at Arkansas State because it was in Memphis last year. But if that were in Memphis, I'd be going to the game. I would be going wearing Tennessee gear, very loudly jeering Butch Jones from the opposing sidelines.
Man, y'all really have an agenda. Yeah, it's at Arkansas State. Hey, 2 hours away. It's not like it's far. It is a dry county, though. So if you plan on enjoying yourself at all, you would need alcohol, and you can't have it. So
I don't drink. Drinking's a sin. Week 2.
Fair enough.
I forgot to mention Ohio State looked like hot dog water against Indiana. That's all I have to say on that. Week 2, Friday, Illinois, Kansas. Kansas is the 3-point dog. Over-under set at 56.5. Real quick, let's just try to say only a sentence or two max on these games. Kansas struggled out of the gate.
Illinois' Luke Altmaier, former Ole Miss quarterback, is going to ball out.
So you're taking them money line?
Okay. Well, I'm staying off that game then.
Yeah.
I might change my pick. Drew, you want to go first on the next one? Vandy, Wake Forest. Vandy struggled against Hawaii. Didn't look particularly good this past week against a nobody. Wake Forest playing without Sam Hartman for the first time in a decade, it feels like. Wake is favored by 10.5. The over-under is set at 57.5.
I didn't watch Wake Forest enough this weekend. I mean, I know how bad Vandy is, but to be honest with you, probably the under in this game. I'm marking that right now.
I think the under's the right play, but the fact that you're picking it's scaring me. I'm also going to take the under at 57.5. I don't want to pick the points on this one because I don't know. I just don't feel like Vandy's very good, but I also didn't watch Wake Forest.
I have not watched a snap of Wake Forest, but I would lay 21 points right here. Vanderbilt was up 2 points to Alabama A&M at halftime. I don't care what the spread is. I'm taking Wake Forest.
You talked me into it. Wake Forest 10.5. Notre Dame, NC State. Notre Dame, the 7.5-point favorite. Over under at 51. I am hammering the over for this game, and I'm hammering Notre Dame 7.5. NC State struggled against UConn, and you are not going to convince me that UConn is an above-average football team.
Nah, Notre Dame in the points is the way to go here.
NC State in the points.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame. I don't know. I'll have to look into this. I might
watch me go undefeated this week, and y'all can't say shit to me.
I hope you do.
You said under 56. Is that where it's at?
51.
Ooh.
Yeah,
go with the under. To be honest, I just don't get
those 6 points scare me. Too.
Notre Dame has scored 42 points in their first 2 games, and I know it was Navy and TSU, but I like what I've seen from that offense with Sam Hartman so far. I don't believe NC State's going to get shut out. I like the over at 51.
I imagine it'd be pretty limited amount of possessions. The under hit in the first Notre Dame game without them punting once.
You know what? Give me Notre Dame money line instead of with the points, but I'm keeping that over 51.
I'm thinking alternate spread 3.5. I kind of some points back, still get better odds.
I like
Seems
that.
Like a fair bet.
Next game, Virginia versus James Madison. Virginia could be without their starting quarterback, Musket. James Madison is a 7-point favorite. Over under set at 40.5.
Definitely the over. God, Virginia is so bad that I don't even have faith in that.
No.
40 points.
I just love to see Davis's spin about how Virginia's a good team and the Vols are back.
I never said Virginia was a good team.
Literally on par with the FCS team.
I never said. First off, I'm taking Virginia +7 if that quarterback plays. But
by the way, I want to make one statement about my bet slip last week. The fact that Tennessee couldn't score 2 touchdowns or at least a field goal along with the touchdown in the first quarter is pathetic. Absolutely trash. That was a free bet, and I bet it again. Unfortunately,
Drew, I have a secret. I have a secret to tell you. I called Josh Heupel 10 minutes before the game. Said you got to keep it under 14.
Well, I knew it was collusion. It had to be because you can't be that bad.
Yeah. After watching,
they only had one offensive possession that I thought was really bad. The wide receivers dropped some balls. Ultimately,
I am not a believer in Joe Milton at all for that game. I don't think he's going to.
Joe Milton looked good in that game.
I don't believe he's going to be anywhere near as effective as Hendon Hooker in that offense.
He looked pretty good. I will say I'm a hater of him too, but he was 5 for 5 in the first quarter, wasn't he?
He looked good, and if his receivers catch 2 of those balls. He's 300 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. Narrative completely changed.
There's so many easy throws, and if it wasn't for the running game, I mean, it'd be what 7-7 going into halftime.
I think
the play, Marvin Harrison.
Okay,
the running game was always like that. No, it was 7. It was.
Everyone had drops this week. Everyone.
Throw that out there. We're not the only ones that didn't show anything.
Yeah.
But the entire first junior looked like hot dog water. But the playbook was super vanilla. We didn't show anything. That first half was literally run, screen. Run, dump off pass. I don't think you can blame Joe Milton for that.
No, I'm being honest with you. I was just trying to mess with you, Davis. It's one of that game against Virginia. You can't tell a freaking thing about it. It's the same thing at the Ole Miss game against Mercer. You can't take anything from that game. They're both just horrible.
Yeah.
Games.
So wrapping up Virginia, I'm taking Virginia +7.
I'm not touching that game.
I don't want to take the over for that game because that over 40.5 is deceptive. I'm only taking Virginia +7 if their quarterback starts. If their quarterback doesn't start, I don't want anything on my slip for that.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't touch that.
This game is what excites me. My brother is my brother's not the best gambler in the world, but he is dead set on Colorado money line next week. Hit them.
Colorado's favored by 3.5, and dude,
Colorado favored?
Yeah. It's in Colorado. No, it's in Colorado. Colorado's favored.
Oh, give me Nebraska all day.
The over under I'm taking Colorado in the points, but the over-under is at 59.5. And the thing is, I don't know if Minnesota's defense is good. I don't know if Nebraska's offense is good. I know Colorado will sling the ball around, but I don't think Colorado can get the 60 by themselves.
No.
I'm not a big I can't look at plays and diagnose them. I'm not a big football mind, but I watched someone go over the film of TCU versus Colorado. His game plan was just beyond horrendous. A lot of Sanders.
They kept throwing at Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter was the best player on both sides of the ball, and they kept throwing at him.
In defense, it just makes no sense what they were doing. I think Matt Rule is 10 times the coach of Sonny Dykes, to be honest. And I think he's going to have this team a lot more prepared for Colorado. I could see this game being a 17-14 game.
I could see that too, but I still think Colorado's going to win with the 3.5 points.
Yes, give me Nebraska. I'll take the 3.5.
I do not believe in Nebraska. Texas A&M in Miami. Texas A&M is favored by 4.5 points. The over-under is set at 51.5. First off, I'm taking the over for that game.
Yeah,
I don't think Miami looked particularly great in their opener.
I didn't get to see them.
I didn't either.
But I was watching Miami play Miami. I was watching, and that's not a typo or a word burp. Miami was playing Miami of Ohio. I watched Louisville and Georgia Tech. Louisville will earn their name back whenever they don't cost me a game. And I watched Michigan State looked absolutely mid against Central Michigan for the first half. Miami looked fine, didn't look great. A lot of people are really high on Texas A&M right now. I don't know where this game is at. I think it's in Miami.
I'm pretty sure it's in Miami.
It's in Miami, yeah, because last year it was in – wait, no. Last year was in Miami, wasn't it?
I don't remember. Last year, the MTSU game was in Miami that Miami lost.
Sure was.
The over's at
Miami.
The over's at 51.5. I'm definitely taking the over.
Yeah, that's my play. Every bone in my body wants A&M just to get smacked, but
Me too.
I think A&M's better. I think they're better this year.
If I had to take a spread on this bet game, I'd take A&M, to be honest.
Iowa State. Big week 2 rivalry.
So easy.
The over-under is set at 36.5, and I'm inclined to take it. I'm inclined to take the under because Iowa. Both of these teams are bad. Iowa's favored by 4.
Give me.
I win the points.
Brian Ferentz needs his 26 points this game.
Oh, we're keeping a tracker. I don't know if you were here whenever we were talking about it. We're going to keep track of the points.
As you should, because I think he makes that 26 this game. He might even make the over by himself.
Well, here's the thing. He needs to have 28 because he only had 24 against some nobody.
No.
Get up somewhere.
It's 25.
It's 25 a game. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So he needs 26.
26. So I think Iowa goes all out. They might even throw the ball a few times this game.
Well, they scored 2 touchdowns real quick in the first quarter against. I don't remember who they played. I know it wasn't a very good team.
I had Iowa minus 25. They
didn't even score 25 points.
Tough.
Ole Miss and Tulane. Give me Ole Miss minus 7.5. Give me the over of 65.
I think I like Ole Miss a lot. I never bet on my team, and I think this week I'm going to change. I think I'm going to bet on Ole Miss.
I'm right there with you. I never bet on my team either, but I will pick them for the slip for this show.
Yeah.
Speak for yourselves.
Maybe that's why Memphis sucks, because you bet on your team.
Could be.
See, I like emotionally hedge. If Ole Miss is playing like Arkansas, I'll put money on Arkansas. So if they lose, I'll at least win some money. And then if they win, I lost. It's like $50. I bought the win. Totally worth
2019 Memphis and the points and Memphis and the over 10 straight weeks. I don't want to hear a word from either of y'all. I made money I also made a lot of money that year. A lot of money on football.
What year was that?
2019.
Yeah, I blocked that year out.
Join the club.
Well, how do you feel about this over? Because Ole Miss just scored 73 points by themselves. I think the offense is always good. Lane Kiffin is the best offensive coordinator in the country.
Offense is going to be really good. They're missing probably 2 of their top 3 offensive weapons still. So they'll be backed by Bama, so it's going to get even better. So
where's Keyshawn Judkins?
Did
he play? Did Keyshawn play last week?
Yeah, he did, but he had I think 13, 14 rushes. I mean, it wasn't. They didn't run him that much, They think they threw for a school record 540 yards across.
Yeah, and y'all had that guy set the single game touchdown record.
Trey Harris, he's going to be a stud.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like that over because I think Tulane can still score.
I do too.
Okay, so here's where I'm hesitant about that is Michael Pratt. He was limping last Saturday. I mean, he got destroyed against South Alabama. So I don't think he wasn't at the and then he'll feel in the second half. And
I think
effective.
I think Ole Miss is going to destroy them. I think they're going to win by 20 points. So Ole Miss minus 7.5. Game of the week, and it's the game of the week everywhere. Barstool's coming to town. College Game Day's coming to town. Texas at Alabama.
This kind of concerns me. I don't know. I didn't watch Texas play last week, so I don't know. I watched Alabama play. I was really impressed. So I'm inclined to take Alabama in the points. The over/under, what is it set at?
54.5. I like the over. I like the over.
Yeah.
I like the over. Cole's muted. I got to bring him back up.
I'm right here. Sorry about that.
All right, he should be good now. Yeah, I like the over. Alabama looked good against MTSU, but am I willing to ride on that with all the talent and hype that Texas has? Texas did not look particularly good against Rice, did not cover. Cole just muted himself again. I don't know if he's aware of that.
There we go.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Well, I did it once.
Okay.
Flowers for beating MTSU. I'm
just
not. I, however, do like Alabama to win the game. Money line. I don't want to give them the points, though, but I'm taking. Are you good? I think we're good. Okay. I'm not willing to give Jalen Milroe and Alabama their flag in the over 54.5.
I have no feel for this game at all. Quinn Ewers didn't look particularly great last week, but I have this hunch that Quinn Ewers, he's one of those guys during the big time games he shows up.
He showed up last year.
Absolutely.
For however long he played.
He was about to run Alabama out of that building. He was blowing out. And then I read somewhere, I didn't know, but Alabama had some secondary issues or secondary injuries or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I have no feel for this game. I guess if I had to pick Alabama in lay the points for Alabama at home.
A smart man never makes money betting against Nick Saban. However, I don't know. Oklahoma State, Arizona State. It's hard to get a feel for this. You try not to make conclusions after week one. Oklahoma State's favored by 3.5. Over under set at 51. This game is going to be disgusting. Arizona struggled with nobody. Both of these teams struggled hard.
Southern Utah must be Arizona State.
Yeah. There's no chance I'll watch this game. Zero chance.
That 51 under feels real nice.
I'd take Oklahoma State in this game.
Would you take them 3.5?
Yeah, I would. Just
Josh Pate's Big 12 runner-up.
Wait, so yeah, that's a crazy take. Well, where is it? It's in Oklahoma State or is it in Arizona State?
I think it's in Oklahoma State.
It is in Oklahoma State. I think I watched it. I think I looked at it earlier.
100%.
I'll take Oklahoma State.
Yeah, true freshman coming in playing his first road game at Oklahoma State. Yeah, I'm taking Oklahoma State in the points all day.
All right. These games, you don't have to pick a winner.
It's at Arizona State.
Oh.
Changes things.
It sure does, actually.
That makes me really want to hit the under.
Wow, South Alabama plays Oklahoma State week 3, and I think that'll be a really good game.
South Alabama broke my heart this past week.
Yeah, they did too. We're not going to get into that because that pissed me off.
Once again, the only person in the group chat to take Tulane in the points.
He's also the
You
guy
got lucky there too, and I don't even hate my pick. I really don't. I hate how it turned out, but
Drew, do you see this? This is me playing the world's tiniest violin for you.
I love how Davis always talks about the winners, but he doesn't mention he took Clemson minus 13.5 last night.
Yeah, that was a bad bet. I got some faulty information there.
He liked TCU too, and they lost outright.
Yeah, I got some faulty information on that one.
I had TCU minus 20.5. That was
I'm like Vegas.
I'm
like Vegas. I'll adjust after like 2 weeks.
Yeah, everyone keeps saying Vegas got hosed this weekend. Not by me.
Absolutely not.
Not by me.
Okay, so these are other games that I have on my radar, either based from recent history or just based on how close the line is. App State and UNC. That game was one of my favorite games last year. They scored like 120 points between the two of them. Do you know where Mac Brown was living before UNC called? Boone, North Carolina.
No way. I didn't know that, actually.
UNC is favored by 18 points.
I know App State lost their OC to Mississippi State. I know nothing about them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know enough about this.
Give me Drake May and the points.
I just think, which you don't have to pick for this. I just think this is going to be an interesting game. Northwestern and UTEP. UTEP is favored by 1.5. This might be Northwestern's best chance to win a game this year.
I'm hoping they're the only defeated team this year. It'd be fun to watch.
It would be fun to watch.
This is the sickos game of the week. Northwestern, UTEP. Cincinnati, Pitt. Former Big East members. Pitt's favored by 7.5. Over-unders at 47, which kind of surprised me because Cincinnati just scored 66 points.
I like the over and Cincy and the points here.
I know nothing about these two teams. But Pittsburgh's one of those teams that they put out good players all the time, but I get no interest in them. Pat
Narduzzi plays like an old school brand of football. They're usually good for 7 or 8 wins. They had Kenny Pickett that one year, and they were stellar.
He fired. Who was the OC that went to Scott Frost? He fired that OC because he didn't run the ball enough.
Yeah, I remember that.
With Kenny Pickett on his team. So
I remember that was. I think that was dumb. We were pointing to that last year before Tennessee went up to play them. Memphis, Arkansas State. I hope Memphis makes Butch Jones cry on national television for the second week in a row.
That just shows you how much you hate Butch Jones.
I root for Memphis in football generally.
What's the line?
I don't have it written down.
I haven't looked at it yet.
I would Arkansas State money line.
Shut the fuck up, Cole. No, you don't, dude.
Memphis is favored by 21.5 points. Over-under is 58.
That's kind of crazy, to be honest.
Memphis looks pretty good. I mean, I think we should just.
I don't think Memphis.
Cookman game.
Look, we looked good, right? And statistically,
you threw 2 interceptions and gave up a fumble to a high school team.
Davis.
Hey, what did we talk about a couple segments ago? First week, there's mistakes are made.
Hey,
clean them up.
That's a lot of mistakes.
You heard it here first. Drew is a Ryan Silverfield believer.
Not yet. I'm getting there, though.
I'm clipping that, and I'm putting it out. I'm telling you. Oregon, Texas Tech. This game was circled by a lot of people before the season started, before Texas Tech lost to Wyoming. Oregon is a 6.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 67, which is an insane number. If I were going to bet it, I'd take Oregon, the points, and the under.
I don't know about the under. I mean, Oregon put up 83 themselves last week.
Texas Tech barely scored 14 against Wyoming in regulation.
Yeah, I mean, you could get in one of those situations where, like, they just don't score at all and you get screwed. I don't know. I'm not looking at this game too much. If I had to bet it, I'd take Oregon and the points.
I feel like this is, if I could see the money percentage, the bet percentage on this game, I'd bet you money the heavy percent of the money is on Oregon, and I bet you money that Vegas is betting on Texas Tech to cover.
I bet they are betting on Texas Tech to cover. Okay.
If I had to hunch, I'd probably take Texas Tech here, just for the bounce-back game. Public opinion is low, and I bet you a ton of money on Oregon.
I feel like you've got a couple of bounce-back games so far this week. Nebraska
is 89% on Oregon. I'm looking at it right now.
What's the money percentage?
89% of people are on -6.5.
That's the bet. Okay.
This is just on action. I don't know. A lot of money on there.
I imagine there'd be a lot of money on the Oregon as well.
So I'm very interested in this next game. UCF looked pretty good last week. Boise State gave Washington a couple fits for the first half, and what ended up being a really
I like UCF to win here too.
My boy JRP.
John Rice Plumbing.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Sean Toohey. He's over there.
Yeah, he sure is actually. He's a
He's
player personnel, isn't he?
Something
Yeah, he's
like
got
that.
some. He's got a made up role.
I wouldn't say made. He's actually like worked his way up. I know Butch Jones kind of put it, or no, excuse me, Hugh Freeze kind of put him on, but
Yeah, made up position. Wisconsin.
Hugh Freeze, Butch Jones. What's the difference, really?
Well, one of them's a good coach, but they're both scumbags.
Hey, did y'all see Hugh Freeze get just crazy horny on Twitter the other night?
Oh God!
I don't think he was crazy horny. I just thought it was a fucking weird comment. But I think I know what
What did he say?
He quote tweeted and then he tweeted her. So he tweeted at the girl twice.
He doesn't even run his Twitter account. I don't think we can definitively say that was Hugh Freeze.
He definitely, after he got that first win, he was feeling himself.
If someone else is running and did that, then we have way bigger problems. If there's a worse version of Hugh Freeze who is running his Twitter, Auburn is screwed.
Which I follow Chelsea, I think that's her name. The girl that Auburn made up was having an affair with Brian Harsin. Today's her birthday. Happy birthday, Kelsey. No, she's a real person.
No. Oh yeah. I know.
The affair was not. There's no way that happened.
Well, I was at Auburn at the time, so I heard some things.
Of course you did. You always got a source, Cole.
Let's just say Brian Harsin didn't fit in with the Auburn family.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, I know. They made up an affair about him to fire him. Wisconsin.
There was a lot of stuff there. It wasn't just that. There was a lot of stuff there.
Wisconsin and Washington State. Wisconsin is ranked in a lot of polls because new head coach Luke Fickell. I'm not a believer. I don't think Wisconsin's that great. I don't think Washington State's very great either. This is potential for – this is like a sicko's watch. Potential for a sicko's type of game.
Braylon Allen's really good. That's all I got.
Yeah, I don't really have much on this game at all.
Mississippi State, Arizona. Elliott said in the group chat people would be more interested in this game than Oklahoma, Arizona State. I didn't have the heart to tell him he only thinks that because he's a Mississippi State fan.
Dude, State. What's the spread on this? We got to take State in the points, right?
State, I think, was favored by 10.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty confident State in the points here. State has a lot of returning players. They're experienced team.
They didn't look good the first half against yeah. I know which everyone had a slow start. Everyone's playing a vanilla playbook for week 1. A couple of people have real games week 2. I'm going to consider this a real game. It's a game between Power 5 opponents, even if Arizona hasn't been that great the last couple of years. The line on that's actually moved. State's favored by 9, over under set at 60.
Hey, you know what that opened up at? State
what?
-18.
Wow. That much movement?
Yeah.
Since Sunday?
Yeah.
No shot.
I'm almost positive. Go look it up. I'm almost positive it opened up -18.
So who's hammering Arizona like that?
I don't
Somebody
know.
had to throw one giant bet on Arizona for it to move that
been
much.
moving slow. I mean, I know it moved really quick, and last I heard was 10.5.
Well, I mean, I made this outline at like 2:30, so within the last 4 hours, the line's moved another 1.5.
That's crazy. Let me see where the money's at on this.
That makes me want to take Mississippi State in the points.
Me too.
I was thinking about being an antagonist for Gabby and Elliott and going with Arizona money line, but
I don't have a feel for this game. I
think Mississippi State is going to end up being a lot better than people think. I think they could beat South Carolina on the road.
62% of the money on Mississippi State.
They should beat South Carolina on the road. Personally, I think that I know it's going to sound bad, but I think Arizona has a better quarterback. Being honest with you, I think it's all going to depend on Xavier, what's his name? Xavier and Tulu, the wide receivers, if they can play. If they can play, I think Mississippi State wins handily.
Man,
If not, it could get real ugly.
Mississippi State's missing Ra Thomas, and that guy went to Georgia to go be a third-string wide receiver.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah, their best receiver is Tulu Griffin. He's a stud, but I think he was hurt or didn't play. I don't really
He
know.
almost went to Ole Miss, didn't he?
He went into the transfer portal. He leveraged State for more money. He went into the transfer portal and threatened to go to Ole Miss, and then State put up a bag for him.
Good for them.
Yeah.
All right, we're almost at the end here. Got two more. Auburn and Cal. Auburn's favored by 3.5. The story of week one was just a bunch of slow starts. Auburn had a slow start. Cal's not a very good football team.
I love Auburn in the points here.
Yeah, me too.
I'm leaning that way.
Y'all know how incredible this cosmic justice is? Because in 2018, Hugh Freeze was not allowed to go with Ole Miss. It was 2017. Either way, was not allowed to go to Ole Miss to.
I have no comments on that, Cole.
I don't either. I pay way more attention to Hugh Freeze than I do.
Absolutely. No, I'm putting money on Auburn. If they lose, I'm even happier. I'll take the loss on money.
Hugh Freeze is like Ole Miss's version of Lane Kiffin. He's the ex they can't quite get over.
Is he more of a Derek Dooley though? Just because? Well,
no, because he was good.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
The thing about Hugh Freeze,
although I'm not sure Lane Kiffin's good.
The thing about Hugh Freeze is just the shtick he puts up, the sanctimonious stuff. It drives me crazy.
It's the exact same shtick that I have as being bad at gambling, where I say I am actually like that, and I actually am. And Hugh Freeze says he's actually a horny weirdo, and turns out he actually is.
He's a Bible thumper. Briarcrest finest.
Briarcrest finest, absolutely.
Last game, Utah, Baylor. Baylor is a 6.5-point underdog. Utah did not look very good against Florida for stretches. Baylor just lost to Texas State. Could we see a bounce-back game? Anybody?
Is Cam Rising playing?
He's not going to play till like week 4 or 5 at the earliest.
Well, Baylor also lost their starting quarterback as well.
I will not. I don't even think I'll watch this game.
Absolutely.
This is another one, a sicko's warning, putting the label on it.
That's a sicko's warning, absolutely.
Baylor hurt my heart really bad.
I can't believe they lost to TJ Finley.
I was down so bad, dude. They were down 14, and I was like, no fucking way they lose this game. And I live bet a money line, and they got spanked.
All right.
Spanked.
So last thing I have for the show today, we're moving kind of quick. I was surprised how fast we got through everything. There was a point where I thought this was going to be an hour and a half show. We're at 46 minutes.
That's not bad at all.
No. So I released the Bad Take Blake Week 2 poll. I wish I would have talked to the group chat before I released it because I didn't know who to put at that number 25 spot, so I slipped App State in there just because I like them. There was no rhyme or reason. It's just a biased pick.
Fair enough.
And then
we get to do that.
I don't remember what someone said, but it was a much better slot for that number 25 pick.
I think I saw someone say UCF.
Yeah, that's who it was. I was like, damn, that would have been good. But
who cares?
The most interesting thing, I moved Ohio State below Alabama and USC because was not very impressed with them. Florida State up to number 9. You could argue that Florida State could be as high as 6. I feel like Washington might be a top 10 team this year. I have them at number 11. I have Notre Dame at 10. I feel good about that because everything in front of them, like there's a lot of question marks. I'm not ready to completely write off Ohio State or Penn State or Georgia, but I liked what I saw from Washington against Boise State. I liked what I've seen from Notre Dame so far. Florida State has the best win in the country at this point, even if LSU – and I only moved LSU down to 12. Like, I think I had them at number 10 last week, so I only dropped them 2 slots.
They're 14 in the AP poll, right?
Yeah, they're 14.
Yeah.
I thought that was fair.
I dropped Clemson. I dropped Clemson off. Like, Clemson didn't look like a top 25 team this week, so they're not in.
At all.
They're not on.
Is Duke ranked?
Yeah, I have Duke at 23.
Okay. Yeah, but I say Duke definitely should be. That defense, dude, Mike Oko's so good.
I don't have Colorado.
That's fair.
And I bumped Texas A&M up pretty substantially. I'm starting to buy the hype for them. They're at number 13. Texas at 14. North Carolina at 15, which is up 5 slots. Kansas State stays the same at 16. Oklahoma moved up a couple slots to 17. Ole Miss moved up to 19. Arkansas joined it. Kentucky moved up a little bit. Utah is at 24 because I really didn't think they looked good, but at the end of the day, they won. Despite
one more quick comment about Colorado, and it's something I've really liked seeing from especially the listeners and our group chat and stuff like that. We all seem to be very like, hey, we're realistic about this based off past experiences. They could be good. They look really good, but we're not willing to accept the hey, they're horrible or hey, they're an all-star. We're more of the hey, I hope they do really well. Realistically, just based off past experiences, I don't think they're going to be that great, and I really like that standpoint that we've kind of taken.
I think the people who think they're either going to be all-stars or horrible are just too emotionally involved in that decision.
Exactly.
They either love Deion or they hate him.
And I'm okay with being wrong, and I think you guys are too about that.
I'm really surprised to see some of the people that hate Deion. And then on the flip side of that, my dad is pro Deion. We watch, like I said, I watched that Joel Klatt interview. I happened to watch it at my dad's house. My dad is pro, and he does not fit the demographic that you think would be pro Deion. Like he's
Deion, yeah.
He likes an old school ball coach. He doesn't like a bunch of flashy talking, but Deion has been a lot of flash his entire career. I've been really impressed with the coaching job he's done to this point.
We should have offered him so much money.
David, do you know the payout that the AAC gives to its schools?
Nothing.
$6 million a year.
Oh, I thought you meant the fine for leaving the AAC because that's nothing.
It actually is $18 million.
I thought UCF and Cincinnati got to leave at
So I listened to a podcast, it's an Ole Miss guy, but he had on like a mega booster from SMU, and he kind of detailed like SMU leaving. It was actually a really good podcast. But he said that Houston paid $18 million to get out. I assume every other one would have paid about the same, but $6 million a year.
$6 million, dude, that's awful.
That's what SMU's standpoint was. They're like, we're not losing $35 million a year going to the ACC. We're losing $6 million a year, and they can cover that easily with their boosters.
Easily. All that old money in Dallas, dude. I mean, shit. They have enough money within a square mile of that campus to cover that.
Highland Park is just
insane.
Good for SMU. The idea of Stanford and Cal playing in the Atlantic Coastal Conference makes me want to throw up.
Yeah, it's so nasty.
And then Cal said like the most broke boy shit ever when they were like, we're going to play all of our games in Dallas, or whatever they said, number of new games in Dallas. Like, come on, dude. Like,
I saw them talk about doing that. That doesn't seem viable to me.
No, it just seems like a shit show.
I firmly believe that it's like the universe, a constant expansion and retraction. Right now, everyone's retracting into a couple conferences, and whenever the NCAA ultimately goes away, which we're starting to see, that like they've been quiet on their stupid decisions. We're starting to see it. They're holding out players for no reason. They're not telling players until the night before. Mississippi State had a guy that didn't know until Saturday morning that he couldn't play. North Carolina's got a wide receiver that can't play. Hunter Mason's debacle at LSU. Jim Harbaugh at Michigan.
NCAA's been doing this for years. This isn't a new thing.
But they're not giving DeAndre Williams his eligibility.
DeAndre Williams is 30 years old.
I thought I could throw that in there and we would all just be like, yeah, fuck the NCAA.
No, he's like 30 years old.
That's very.
They haven't denied his eligibility either.
So that podcast was about the SMU booster. It was kind of interesting. He said that, what he kind of anticipates happening is in like a few years down the road, someone like Netflix or Amazon will just offer like $100 million a year to the top 60 schools and just branch off from the NCAA. But like you think about
I don't think 60 million's enough.
Well, no, 100, not near enough.
No,
I don't even know if 100 million's enough.
No, that's why he said 100 million. Excuse me. But like you got to think 100 million. That's only. I say only. That's $6 billion. Like, if you had control of
per
all, like,
school?
Oh, okay. I thought you meant overall. Okay. Yeah. That makes more
think about
sense.
it. You have $100 million. You control all the scheduling. You control all the TV rights. You could make money on that easily.
Yeah, probably within the first 2 years.
Absolutely. And, like, it made a ton of sense what he was saying because, like, all the schools would absolutely leave right now for $100 million.
Dang.
I don't hate that. I've never heard that take, but
I don't like
that.
I don't like what are the
It
top
was the-
60 schools? Is that all the Power 5? Who's getting left out of there? Northwestern, Vanderbilt.
Washington State.
Yeah.
Memphis.
He mentioned, like, schools
Oh,
like,
you're not even at the table, buddy.
It's another. I'm just throwing that in there.
He mentioned like Arizona schools, like might only take one Arizona, might take one Mississippi school, like stuff like that.
Oh, so he's thinking the TV market, like I can't afford both, so I'm going to take one.
And that's why, he's an SMU grad, so obviously he's a little biased, right? But like,
Yeah, that'd be a shame for Ole Miss to get left out for their.
Yeah, it would. What a world.
Hey,
for Tennessee to get left out too. God,
Tennessee wouldn't get left out.
Listen, it could be Drew's dream. He'd finally join the same conference as Ole Miss.
hey,
Memphis could get a real rival.
yeah, Bethune-Cookman just wasn't getting it done last weekend. We need a real opponent.
I'll be honest, I feel bad for dogging on Drew so much. He's a really good sport about it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look when you've been losing as long. And I told Gabby this. I am doomed to a hell of mediocrity with all my teams. So when you've been like that for so long, it's almost like your instant reaction is to just, yeah. Well, I mean, it is what it is, man.
Let me give you a little bit of good news, Drew. I brought this before the council, and we've decided to offer you a probationary slot as a Tennessee fan.
Well, unfortunately, fortunately, I'm going to have to turn that down. If I'm going to be doomed to a hell of mediocrity, I might as well be a good sport, suck it up, and continue with it.
I'm just saying.
I'm 27 years old. Like, I can't go back now. I will quit. I'll quit sports before I go back.
Tennessee has been ranked number 1 in the country at 2 different sports within the last 3 years, or 2 different sports within the last year, and in the top 10.
Number 1 in the country and 1 sport last year. How many has Tennessee finished?
Who did Ole Miss finish number 1 within the last year?
Baseball. 2 years ago.
Dude, that season's over. We got a new natty. You gotta pipe down with that. LSU's your national champion.
Say 3 years, and I say, yeah.
I flirbed. I meant 1 year because I was thinking 3 sports.
Chris Beard. I mean, you never know. He's brought in some good players, beating the SEC
really
and his
players.
wife all in the same night.
Hey, he's about to have a top 5 recruiting class too. Watch out for Chris Beard. He's on a
hey, tell his wife that too. Watch out.
All right, and that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Cole, for joining us. I hope this episode gets the views as your last episode did. Follow us on Instagram at BadTakeBlake. Follow us on Twitter at BadTakeBlake_. Be sure to tune in to the college football show Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Follow at VolGov53 to be up to date on that.
Drew, why don't you drop your handle?
At DrewDowdy123. I don't tweet as much as I should because I'm busy overcoming extreme mental gymnastics with my gambling. But you know what?
Drew got locked out of his Twitter because he couldn't afford Twitter Blue after this past weekend.
Elon said $7. Nope.